Queen Nara sat on her throne made of living coral that glowed soft blue in the darkness. The great hall of the palace stretched before her, empty except for the dancing lights that moved across the crystal walls. Her skin, once bright with the patterns that showed joy and hope, now barely glowed at all. The other Valithi who saw her whispered that their queen looked like a dying star. 3 years had passed since her daughters disappeared. Princess Yuna and Princess Hana were supposed to visit the outer worlds on a simple trip to meet new allies. They never came home. Their ship was found floating empty near a place called the Corvin Nebula, with no sign of what happened to them. The Valithi were not like humans or other races that fought wars. They were tall, graceful beings with see-through skin that showed beautiful patterns of light when they felt strong emotions. They had ruled over many peaceful worlds for thousands of years, solving problems with kindness and understanding instead of weapons. But all their wisdom and advanced technology could not bring back the missing princesses. Commander Jiwan walked into the throne room. His skin showed the dark purple patterns that meant he brought bad news. He had been searching for the princesses since they vanished, leading team after team into dangerous parts of space. Each time he returned with nothing. "My queen," Jiwan said, his voice heavy with sadness. "The search of the Tellus system found no trace of the princesses. We have now looked in over 200 star systems. We have spoken to every smuggler, pirate and trader we could find. It is as if your daughters simply stopped existing." Queen Nara closed her eyes. The coral throne felt cold beneath her. "Tell me about the ship again," she said quietly. "The royal transport was found intact," Jiwan replied. "No damage to the hull. No signs of a fight. The life support was still working, but everyone was gone. The ship's computer had been wiped clean. Whatever took them knew exactly what they were doing." In the 3 years since her daughters vanished, Queen Nara had tried everything. She sent her best ships to search every corner of known space. She offered rewards so large that even the greediest criminals came forward with information. She asked her allies among the peaceful races for help. The Zentari shared their mind-reading abilities. The Ophans used their power to see through time. The Korex gave them access to their massive computer networks. Nothing worked. The queen stood up from her throne and walked to the great window that looked out over the capital city. Below her, millions of Valithi went about their daily lives. Their skin glowed with soft, happy colors as they worked and played in the floating gardens and crystal towers. They did not know that their queen spent every night crying tears that glowed like tiny stars. "There must be something we have not tried," she said. "My queen," Jiwan said carefully, "there is one option we have not considered." Nara turned to look at him. His skin was showing the nervous yellow flashes that meant he was about to suggest something he knew she would not like. "Tell me," she said. "The humans," Jiwan said. "They have a reputation for finding things that others cannot find." Queen Nara was quiet for a long moment. Humans were new to the galaxy. They had only been traveling between stars for about 200 years, which was nothing compared to the Valithi's long history. Most of the older races thought humans were primitive and violent. They used crude technology and solved problems by hitting them with bigger weapons instead of thinking carefully. But Nara had heard stories. Stories of human bounty hunters who never gave up on a case. Stories of human explorers who went places that scared other races. Stories of human soldiers who won battles that should have been impossible to win. The other races whispered that humans were too stupid to know when something could not be done, so they did it anyway. "The council will not approve," Nara said. "The council has not lost their children," Jiwan replied. That evening, Queen Nara called a meeting with her advisors. The council chamber filled with soft, colored light as the wisest Valithi in the Empire gathered around the floating table. When she told them her plan, the room went dark as their skin showed shock and disapproval. "You cannot be serious," said Advisor Minho, his skin flashing angry red patterns. "Humans are barely civilized. They think violence solves everything. They have been in space for less time than some of our children have been alive. They are dangerous," added Counselor Heun. "Unpredictable. What if this human decides to ransom the princesses back to us? What if he demands payment and then disappears like the others? Queen Nara listened to all their arguments. They were right about humans being violent and primitive. They were right about humans being new to the galaxy. But they were wrong about one thing. "I have already lost my daughters," she said, her skin glowing with the silver patterns of absolute determination. "I cannot lose them more than I already have. If there is even the smallest chance that a human can succeed where we have failed, then I will take that chance." The council argued for hours. They reminded her of every terrible story they had heard about humans. They talked about dignity and proper behavior for a queen. They suggested waiting longer, trying harder with their own methods. But Queen Nara had made up her mind. She had spent 3 years being wise and careful and proper. She had followed every rule and tradition. She had tried every advanced technology and asked every powerful ally for help. None of it brought her daughters home. Maybe it was time to try something unwise and improper. Maybe it was time to ask for help from someone who did not know that. Finding her daughters was impossible. The next morning, Queen Nara sent a message to the human colonies. The message was simple and direct, the way humans preferred. She offered a reward of 100 million galactic credits to any human who could find her daughters and bring them home safely. Within hours, she received dozens of replies from human, bounty hunters, mercenaries, and private investigators. Most of them seemed more interested in the money than in her daughters. But one message was different. It came from someone called Kyung, and it only said, "I will find them." 3 days later, a small, ugly human ship requested permission to land at the royal spaceport. Queen Nara watched from her window as the battered vessel touched down between the elegant Velethi ships like a muddy rock among jewels. Her daughter's rescue was about to begin. Kyung's ship looked like it had been through several wars and lost all of them. The metal hull was patched with different materials that did not match. Scorch marks from weapon fire covered one side. The engines made grinding noises that hurt Velethi ears. When it landed in the royal spaceport, it leaked oil onto the perfect crystal landing pad. Queen Nara and her guards waited in the palace reception hall. The room was designed to impress visitors with its floating architecture and walls that changed color with the light. Most alien ambassadors spent their first few minutes staring in wonder at the beauty around them. Kyung walked in and barely looked at anything except the queen. He was shorter than the tall Velethi, with solid, non-transparent skin that showed no emotions. His hair was black and cut very short. He wore simple dark clothes that looked designed for fighting rather than talking. A weapon hung at his side, not the elegant energy tools that civilized races used, but something that looked like it fired actual metal bullets. The royal guards shifted nervously. Their leader, Captain Sora, kept her hand near her weapon. She had never seen a human in person before. He looked exactly like the stories described, primitive and dangerous. "Your Majesty," Kyung said with a small bow. His voice was rough and direct. "I received your message about your daughters." Advisor Minho stepped forward, his skin showing the purple patterns of disapproval. "This is the human bounty hunter?" he asked, not bothering to hide his disgust. "He looks like a common criminal." "I am a common criminal," Kyung replied without emotion. "That is why I am good at finding people who have been taken by other criminals." The queen studied this strange being. He was nothing like the graceful diplomats and scholars who usually visited her court. Everything about him was rough and practical, but his eyes were sharp and intelligent. When he looked at her, she felt like he was seeing things that others missed. "My advisors do not think you can succeed where our best people have failed," Queen Nara said. "Your advisors are probably right," Kyung said. "But I am here anyway." Minho's skin flashed angry red. "How can you help us when our most advanced technology found nothing? We have computers that can analyze entire star systems in minutes. We have sensors that can detect a single molecule of foreign material. We have allies with mental powers that can read thoughts across space." Kyung shrugged. "Maybe that is your problem. You are looking for complicated answers. Sometimes the answer is simple." "Simple?" Captain Sora spoke for the first time. 3 civilizations worked together to search for the princesses. We mapped every asteroid, scanned every ship, questioned thousands of beings. How is that simple? Did you look at the princess's ship? Kyung asked. Of course, Sora replied. Our best investigators examined every part of it. They found nothing useful. Can I see it? The Valethi exchanged glances. Their skin showed confusion and doubt. Why would this primitive human want to look at evidence that their advanced scientists had already studied? An hour later, they stood in the royal shipyard where the princess's transport was kept. It was a beautiful vessel, all curved lines and crystal panels that caught the light. Even empty and silent, it looked like a work of art. Kyung walked around the ship slowly. He did not use any scanning devices or computer analysis. He just looked with his eyes and touched with his hands. The Valethi watched him in growing disbelief. What exactly are you doing? Minho asked. Looking, Kyung replied. He was examining the hull near the main door, running his fingers over metal that appeared perfectly smooth. Our instruments already scanned every centimeter of that surface, Captain Sora said. There is nothing there. Kyung ignored her. He pulled out a small magnifying glass, an incredibly primitive tool that made the Valethi stare in amazement. Who used actual glass lenses when computer enhancement was available? Here, Kyung said, pointing to a spot that looked exactly like the rest of the hull. Queen Nara moved closer. What do you see? Scratches, Kyung said. Very small ones, made by tools. Impossible, Sora said. Our scanners would have detected any damage. Your scanners look for energy signatures and molecular changes, Kyung explained. These scratches are too small and too old, but they show someone worked on this ship after it was built, someone who tried to hide what they were doing. He moved to the ship's interior and began examining the control panels. Again, he used simple tools instead of advanced sensors. He looked at wear patterns on the buttons and switches. He checked for fingerprints and skin cells that others had missed. He even smelled different surfaces, which made the Valethi very uncomfortable. Your daughters did not disappear from this ship, Kyung said finally. What do you mean? The Queen asked. This ship was used as a decoy. The real kidnapping happened somewhere else. Then this ship was sent to the nebula to make you think that is where they vanished. The revelation hit the Queen like a physical blow. But our investigation, your investigation looked for signs of the princesses in the nebula, because that is where you found the ship, Kyung said. Smart plan. While you searched empty space, the real trail got cold. He continued examining the ship. In places where the Valethi had found nothing, his simple methods revealed tiny clues. Dust particles that did not belong in space, microscopic, fibers from clothing that was not Valethi made, chemical traces from atmospheres that the princesses had never visited. This mineral, Kyung said, holding up a tiny sample he had scraped from inside an air vent. Where does it come from? Captain Sora looked at the sample with a portable analyzer. Her skin went pale. It is rare, found only in 3 star systems. Which systems? The Queen asked. The Theron system, the Klaxis Reach, and the Outer Corvin worlds, Sora replied. But those are all dangerous places. The Theron system is controlled by criminals. Klaxis is a war zone. The Outer Corvin worlds have no government at all. Then that is where we need to look, Kyung said. Minho stepped forward, his skin showing disbelief. You found this in one day? Our investigators spent weeks studying this ship. Your investigators are very smart, Kyung said, but they think like Valethi, peaceful, logical, advanced. The people who took your princesses do not think that way. To catch criminals, you need to think like a criminal. Queen Nara felt something she had not experienced in 3 years. Hope. This rough, simple human had found more useful information in one afternoon than all her advanced technology had discovered in months of searching. Which system do we investigate first? She asked. The Theron system, Kyung said without hesitation. It has the biggest criminal networks. If someone was selling royal prisoners, that is where they would go. As they walked back to the palace, Advisor Minho pulled Queen Nara aside. You cannot seriously trust this primitive, he whispered. He uses tools that are thousands of years old. He has no understanding of proper investigation techniques. Queen Nara watched Kyung as he studied star charts on a simple tablet computer, making notes with an actual pen. Everything about him was rough and basic compared to Valathi elegance. But he had done something that all their advanced methods could not do. He had given her a trail to follow. "Prepare my ship," she told Captain Sora. "We leave for the Theron system tomorrow." "My queen," Sora protested. "It is too dangerous. Let us send the human alone." "No," Queen Nara said firmly. "I have spent 3 years waiting while others searched for my daughters. I will not wait any longer." The Theron system was nothing like the peaceful worlds of the Valathi Empire. 3 different alien species fought constant wars here over mining rights and territory. The space around the planets was full of weapon platforms, patrol ships, and the wreckage of old battles. No government controlled this place. Only the strongest survived. Queen Nara's royal ship looked beautiful and helpless among the military vessels. Its crystal hull and elegant design marked it clearly as belonging to a peaceful race. Several pirate ships immediately began following them, like predators stalking prey. "This was a mistake," Captain Sora said as she watched the tactical display. "We should have sent a warship." "A warship would have started a fight," Kyung replied from the navigation station. "We need information, not a battle." "And how do you suggest we get information in a place like this?" Advisor Minho asked. His skin was flashing nervous yellow patterns. Kyung smiled, and the expression made him look dangerous. "We go to the places where criminals sell things. We ask questions. We offer money." They landed on Theron Prime, the largest station in the system. It was built into a massive asteroid, with tunnels and chambers carved deep into the rock. The air smelled of fuel, sweat, and fear. Aliens from dozens of species crowded the corridors, most of them armed and suspicious. Queen Nara had never been in a place like this. The noise was overwhelming after the quiet elegance of her palace. The crude metal walls pressed in around her. Everywhere she looked, she saw weapons, violence, and desperation. "Stay close," Kyung told them. "Do not touch anything. Do not make eye contact with anyone unless I tell you to. And if shooting starts, get behind something solid." They made their way through the station's market district. Vendors sold everything from stolen technology to illegal drugs to weapons that were banned on civilized worlds. Captain Sora kept her hand on her weapon, but Kyung walked calmly through the chaos like he belonged there. "Information broker," Kyung said, pointing to a small shop squeezed between a weapon dealer and someone selling forged identification cards. "If anyone knows about your daughters, it will be him." The shop owner was a Zealon, a species known for their excellent memory and lack of moral principles. His 4 eyes studied the group as they entered, immediately recognizing Queen Nara despite her attempt to dress like a common traveler. "Valathi royalty," the Zealon said in accented galactic standard. "Far from home, yes? Looking for something specific?" "Information," Kyung said, placing a credit chip on the counter. "About 2 Valathi females who disappeared 3 years ago." The Zealon's eyes went wide when he saw the amount on the chip. "Ah, the lost princesses. Yes, I remember. Very valuable cargo that was. Caused quite a stir in certain circles." Queen Nara stepped forward, her skin glowing with desperate hope. "You know what happened to them?" "Of course, Your Majesty. The Zealon know everything that happens in this system. Your daughter's ship was intercepted near the Corvin Nebula by Captain Daehyun of the Crimson Fleet. Pirates, you understand, but not ordinary pirates." "What do you mean?" Kyung asked. "The Crimson Fleet works for the Krulek Syndicate," the Zealon explained. "They specialize in rare acquisitions, exotic beings, unique technologies, things that certain collectors will pay extremely well for. Valathi royalty would have been very valuable to them." Captain Sora's skin flashed angry red. "Where are they now?" "Sold," the Zealon said sadly. "To Warlord Taiyang of the Kruleks. He has a fortress in the Broken Worlds, about 50 light years from here. But I would not recommend trying to rescue them. The Kruleks do not think like we do. They see organic life as just another commodity to trade." Queen Nara felt sick. Her daughters treated like objects to be bought and sold. The thought made her want to scream. "Can you get us to this fortress?" Kyung asked. The Zelen laughed, a sound like breaking glass. "Oh, human, you are either very brave or very stupid. The Krulek's fortress is surrounded by weapon platforms and defended by an entire fleet. No one attacks the Kruleks and lives." "We are not going to attack," Kyung said. "We are going to sneak in." For the next 2 days, Kyung studied everything he could learn about the Krulek's fortress. He bought star charts from smugglers, tactical information from mercenaries, and structural details from a former prisoner who had escaped years ago. He learned about guard rotations, security systems, and the fortress's daily routine. The Kruleks were silicon-based beings who looked like living crystals. They thought organic life was dirty and inferior. They kept their organic prisoners in a separate section of the fortress, away from their own living areas. This gave Kyung an idea. "We go in during their rest period," he explained to the others. "The Kruleks do not sleep like we do, but they have a time each day when most of them are inactive. Their security will be lighter." "And how do we get past their weapons and shields?" Captain Sora asked. Kyung showed them a small device he had bought from a black market dealer. "Signal jammer. It will disrupt their sensors for about 10 minutes, long enough to get close." 10 minutes? Minho protested. "That is not nearly enough time." "It is if we move fast," Kyung said. They approached the fortress in a stolen smuggler's ship that Kyung had acquired through methods he did not explain. The fortress was a massive structure built into a dead planet, bristling with weapons and surrounded by automated defense platforms. At exactly the right moment, Kyung activated the signal jammer. The fortress's sensors went dark. In the confusion, they slipped past the outer defenses and docked with a maintenance port that Kyung's intelligence said was rarely guarded. The interior of the fortress was cold and sterile, built for beings who did not need warmth or comfort. The corridors were filled with the sound of machinery and the harsh voices of Krulek's guards, speaking in their crystal-like language. They moved quickly through the service tunnels, following a map that Kyung had memorized. Queen Nara's heart pounded as they got closer to the prisoner section. After 3 years of searching, she might finally see her daughters again, but when they reached the prison area, they found only empty cells. "They are not here," Captain Sora whispered, her skin pale with shock. A Krulek's guard had been sleeping in one of the corridor alcoves. Kyung woke him up by pressing a gun to what might have been his head. "The Valithi females," Kyung said in broken Krulek's language. "Where?" The guard's crystalline body flashed with fear colors. Sold to the harvesters. They came with many credits, took all the rare organics." Queen Nara felt her hope shatter like glass. The harvesters were worse than pirates or criminals. They were a mysterious nomadic fleet that collected rare beings from across the galaxy. No one knew what they did with their prisoners. No one who went into harvester space ever returned. "When?" Kyung demanded. 2 cycles ago," the guard replied. "They took everything valuable and left for the galactic core." As alarms began to sound throughout the fortress, Kyung and the others ran back to their ship. The signal jammer was wearing off, and the Krulek's defenses were coming back online. They barely escaped before the weapons platforms opened fire. In the safety of hyperspace, Queen Nara sat in stunned silence. They had found the trail of her daughters, only to discover that it led to the most dangerous place in the galaxy. The galactic core was a region of twisted space and deadly radiation, where the harvester fleets roamed like ghosts. "We have to go after them," she said finally. "My queen," Captain Sora protested. "The galactic core is suicide. Our ships cannot survive the radiation storms. Our navigation systems fail in the gravitational chaos near the black holes." "Then we will die trying," Queen Nara said. "I will not abandon my daughters to those creatures." Kyung looked at the star charts, studying the swirling chaos of the galaxy's heart. "There might be a way," he said slowly, "but it would be dangerous, and stupid, and probably impossible." Queen Nara turned to look at him, her skin glowing with desperate determination. "Tell me." The galactic core was a place of nightmares. Ancient black holes twisted space into impossible shapes. Radiation storms that could kill entire fleets swept through the region without warning. The gravity was so strong that even light had trouble escaping. Most civilized races considered it completely unreachable, but Kyung had an idea that was either brilliant or insane. Human ships are built differently, he explained to Queen Nara and her advisors. We do not use the elegant energy systems that other races prefer. Our technology is crude, but it is also tough. Our engines push through problems instead of working around them. You think your primitive ship can survive where our advanced vessels cannot? Advisor Minho asked, his skin showing disbelief. Maybe, Kyung said. Human ships have gotten through radiation storms before. We have navigated near black holes. We are too stupid to know it is impossible, so sometimes we do it anyway. Queen Nara made a decision that shocked everyone, including herself. I am going with you. The royal court exploded in protests. Captain Sora's skin flashed every color of alarm and anger. My queen, you cannot. The risk is too great. I have spent 3 years sending others to search for my daughters, Queen Nara replied. I will not send someone else to die for them, while I sit safely at home. Then I go too, Captain Sora said firmly. If you are determined to commit suicide, at least you will have protection. Advisor Minho tried to argue, but Queen Nara had made up her mind. Against all protocol and common sense, she would personally enter the most dangerous region of space to find Yuna and Hana. Kyung's ship had been modified with extra shielding and more powerful engines. It looked even uglier than before, but it might have a chance of surviving the journey. The three of them barely fit in the small crew compartment, along with enough supplies for several weeks. As they traveled toward the galactic core, Queen Nara learned things about her daughters that she had never known. Kyung had studied their files carefully, and he asked her questions that revealed aspects of their personalities she had overlooked. Yuna was always curious about other species, the queen said as they watched the stars grow brighter and more chaotic ahead of them. She wanted to learn every language, understand every culture. I thought it was just youthful enthusiasm. And, Hana, Kyung asked, more practical. She studied economics and trade routes. She said that understanding how the galaxy really worked was more important than knowing its poetry. Queen Nara smiled sadly. They complemented each other perfectly. Yuna saw the beauty in the universe and Hana saw how it all connected. Smart girls, Kyung observed. That will help them survive. Captain Sora was monitoring the ship's sensors as they entered the outer edge of the core region. Radiation levels increasing, she reported. Gravitational anomalies detected ahead. The journey became a nightmare of constant danger. They had to navigate between massive gas clouds that could crush their ship with pressure waves. They avoided black holes that pulled at their vessel with forces that made the hull creak and groan. Radiation storms forced them to take shelter behind asteroids, while energy that could sterilize planets swept past them. But somehow, Kyung's ugly, crude human ship kept flying. Its brute force engines pushed through gravitational fields that would have stopped more elegant vessels. Its heavy shielding absorbed radiation that would have fried delicate Valithi systems. There, Kyung said, pointing at the main display. That is what we are looking for. Ahead of them loomed a structure so vast that it defied comprehension. The Harvester mothership was part mechanical construct and part living organism, kilometers long and covered with what looked like organic growth. Smaller ships moved around it like cells in a bloodstream. The entire thing pulsed with a rhythm that was almost like breathing. It is alive, Queen Nara whispered. Partly, Kyung agreed. The Harvesters grow their ships instead of building them. Makes them harder to damage, but also harder to understand. They approached the massive vessel carefully, using debris fields to hide their approach. The ship's biomechanical hull was covered with docking ports and entry tubes that looked more like mouths than doorways. Kyung found one that seemed inactive and guided their ship inside. The interior of the Harvester vessel was like being inside a living creature. The walls were warm and slightly soft to the touch. Organic cables ran along the ceiling like blood vessels. Everything was lit by a dim reddish light that seemed to come from the walls themselves. This way, Kyung said, following signs that his research had taught him to recognize. Prisoner storage should be in the lower sections. They moved through. corridors that curved and branched like arteries. Strange sounds echoed through the ship, not mechanical noises, but sounds like breathing, heartbeats, and whispers. Queen Nara felt like she was walking through the belly of some impossible beast. The prison section was a vast chamber filled with thousands of transparent pods. Each pod contained a different being, species from across the galaxy, all floating in some kind of preservation fluid. The sight was beautiful and horrible at the same time. "There," Captain Sora said, pointing to two pods near the center of the chamber. Princess Yuna and Princess Hana floated peacefully in their containers, unchanged after all this time. They looked like they were sleeping, their skin still glowing, with soft patterns of dreams. Queen Nara pressed her hands against Yuna's pod and wept tears that glowed like tiny stars. "How do we get them out?" she asked. Before Kyung could answer, a voice spoke from behind them. "You do not." They turned to see a being unlike anything they had ever encountered. The harvester was tall and thin, with skin that seemed to be made of living metal. Its face was almost human, but its eyes were black holes that seemed to contain entire galaxies. "I am the Keeper," the being said in a voice that sounded like distant thunder. "I maintain the collection. I preserve the future. You kidnapped my daughters," Queen Nara said, her skin blazing with anger. "I saved them," the Keeper replied calmly, "along with representatives of 10,000 other species. When the Great Darkness comes, they will be all that remains of galactic civilization." "What? Darkness?" Kyung demanded, his hand moving toward his weapon. The Keeper gestured and the air around them shimmered. Images appeared showing the galaxy from a vast distance, but something was wrong. The outer rim was dark, empty of stars. The darkness was spreading inward like a disease, consuming entire sectors of space. "It began 50 years ago," the Keeper explained. "Something from outside our galaxy, something that devours energy itself. It has already consumed the outer rim. In approximately 50 more years, it will reach the core worlds. Everything will die." Queen Nara stared at the images in horror. Entire civilizations were being erased from existence. Billions of beings were dying as the darkness spread. "We have tried to warn your people," the Keeper continued. "We sent messages to every government, every species. No one believed us. No one would act. So we began to collect samples. When the darkness comes, at least something will survive." "You could have asked," Captain Sora said. "You did not have to steal people." "We tried asking," the Keeper said sadly. "No one volunteered to be preserved. Everyone believed their own technology could save them. Everyone thought they were too important to sacrifice for the future." Kyung looked at the thousands of pods, each containing someone who had been taken from their life and family. "There has to be another way," he said. "What other way?" the Keeper asked. "The darkness cannot be stopped. It consumes energy, matter, even the fabric of space itself. The only choice is to preserve what we can." But Kyung was thinking like a human, which meant he was looking for a way to fight instead of a way to hide. "Show me everything you know about this darkness," he said. "Every measurement, every observation, every theory about what it is and how it works." The Keeper hesitated. "Why?" "Because maybe there is a third option," Kyung said. "Maybe we do not have to choose between dying and hiding. Maybe we can choose to fight." The Keeper's expression showed something that might have been hope. Quickly, suppressed by eons of disappointment. "You cannot fight the inevitable." "Humans fight the inevitable every day," Kyung replied. "Usually we lose, but sometimes we win. And when we win, we change everything." The Keeper showed them everything. For hours, Kyung studied data about the approaching darkness while Queen Nara and Captain Sora watched over the sleeping princesses. The information was terrifying. The dark force had already consumed hundreds of star systems, leaving nothing behind but empty space that was somehow emptier than vacuum. "It feeds on energy," Kyung said, reading through the harvester records. "But it is not alive in any way we understand. It is more like a force of nature, like gravity or magnetism, but infinitely more destructive." "Yes," the Keeper agreed. It cannot be reasoned with or bargained with. It simply consumes everything in its path. What if we do not try to stop it? Kyung asked. What if we redirect it? The keeper's metallic face showed confusion. What do you mean? Kyung pulled up a map of the galaxy and pointed to the approaching darkness. Look at how it moves. It follows the path of least resistance, consuming the highest energy sources first. Stars, planets with strong magnetic fields, areas with lots of space traffic. That is correct, the keeper said. It is drawn to energy like water flowing downhill. Then, we give it a bigger hill to flow down, Kyung said. We create an energy source so massive that it pulls the darkness away from populated space. Queen Nara looked up from her daughter's pods. What kind of energy source could be that powerful? Kyung smiled, and for the first time since they had met him, the expression looked genuinely happy instead of dangerous. The galactic core. We turn the central black holes into a beacon that the darkness cannot resist. The keeper stared at him. That is impossible. The energies involved would tear apart half the galaxy. Not if we do it right, Kyung said. He was sketching diagrams on his tablet, his mind working at incredible speed. We do not create the energy all at once. We build it up gradually using the natural forces that are already here. The black holes, the neutron stars, the gas clouds. We turn the entire core region into one massive energy discharge. And kill everyone in 1,000 star systems, Captain Sora protested. Or save everyone in 100,000 star systems, Kyung countered. The core region is mostly empty space and dangerous phenomena. Very few people live here. But if the darkness reaches the populated worlds, he brought up projections showing what would happen if the dark force continued on its current path. Every major civilization in the galaxy would be consumed within 50 years. Trillions of beings would die. Your plan is insane, the keeper said. Even if it could work, no single species has the technology to affect the galactic core. You are right, Kyung agreed. No single species could do it. But what about all of them working together? Queen Nara understood immediately. An alliance. Every major civilization contributing their best technology and knowledge. Exactly, Kyung said. The Velethi have the most advanced energy manipulation systems. The Kruleks understand quantum mechanics better than anyone. The Harvesters know more about the darkness than anyone else. Even my own people have something to contribute. We are very good at building things that should not work. The keeper was quiet for a long moment, processing this idea. Such an alliance has never existed. The species of this galaxy barely tolerate each other. They would never agree to work together on something so dangerous. They will if the alternative is extinction, Kyung said. And they will if they have the right leadership. He turned to Queen Nara. Your people are respected throughout the galaxy. The Velethi are known for their wisdom and peaceful nature. If you call for this alliance, others will listen. Queen Nara felt the weight of the decision. She had come here to rescue her daughters, not to save the galaxy. But looking at the thousands of beings floating in the harvester pods, she realized that every one of them had a family somewhere, people who loved them and missed them. We will need my daughters, she said. Yuna's knowledge of other cultures will help us communicate with species that have never worked together. And Hana's understanding of economics will be crucial for organizing resources on this scale. You would wake them? The keeper asked. They are safe in the pods. If your plan fails... If our plan fails, the pods will not save them, Queen Nara pointed out. The darkness will consume everything, including this ship. At least awake, they can help us try to prevent that. The process of reviving the princesses was surprisingly gentle. The keeper opened their pods and drained away the preservation fluid. Yuna and Hana floated to the bottom of their containers, then slowly opened their eyes. Mother, Yuna whispered, her voice weak from years of sleep. Queen Nara helped her daughters out of the pods, holding them close for the first time in 3 years. They were exactly as she remembered, unchanged by their long captivity. But when she explained what had happened and what they now faced, she saw something new in their eyes, a strength and determination that had not been there before. "We have work to do," Princess Hana said, her practical nature reasserting itself. Immediately, the journey back to Valithi space became a planning session. Kyung outlined his strategy for creating a galactic alliance, while the princesses added their knowledge of diplomacy and resource management. Even Captain Sora contributed ideas about military coordination. But the real work began when they reached the capital. Queen Nara called an emergency session of the Galactic Council, the loose organization that coordinated trade and communication between civilized worlds. Representatives from dozens of species gathered in the Great Crystal Amphitheater, their various forms of communication creating a symphony of lights, sounds, and telepathic whispers. When Queen Nara presented Kyung's plan, the reaction was exactly what they had expected: fear, disbelief, and immediate rejection. "You ask us to trust the word of this primitive human?" demanded Ambassador Jongho of the Corex hegemony. "To risk everything on a plan that could destroy us all?" "The alternative is certain destruction," Princess Yuna replied, her diplomatic training serving her well. "We have seen the evidence. The darkness is real and it is coming." Princess Hana presented the economic analysis she had prepared during their journey. The resource requirements are massive, but achievable if every major civilization contributes. The Zentari crystal farms, the Corex quantum computers, the Ophani time sight abilities. We need them all. The debate continued for days. Some species were willing to consider the alliance. Others refused to believe the threat was real. A few actually walked out of the meetings, declaring the entire proposal to be an elaborate hoax. But slowly, minds began to change. The Keeper had followed them back with evidence that even the most skeptical could not deny. More importantly, Queen Nara's reputation for honesty and wisdom carried weight throughout the galaxy. If she believed this human's plan could work, many others were willing to at least try. The breakthrough came when the Zentari announced their support. As one of the oldest and most respected species, their decision influenced others. Within a week, 12 major civilizations had agreed to join what became known as the Unity Coalition. Kyung found himself in a position he had never imagined: military coordinator for an alliance that spanned the galaxy. His simple, direct approach to problem-solving became the foundation for organizing the largest construction project in galactic history. The plan was incredibly complex, but the basic idea was simple. Using technology from every member species, they would create a network of energy generators throughout the galactic core. When activated simultaneously, these generators would create a massive burst of energy that would act like a beacon, drawing the darkness away from populated space and into the core region where it could be contained. Princess Yuna became the coalition's chief diplomat, using her knowledge of alien cultures to resolve disputes and maintain cooperation between species that had never worked together before. Princess Hana managed the resource allocation, ensuring that materials and expertise flowed where they were needed most. Queen Nara found herself transformed from a grieving mother into the leader of the greatest alliance in galactic history. The quiet, elegant ruler who had once preferred meditation to action was now coordinating the efforts of trillions of beings across thousands of worlds. The work took 5 years. Ships from dozens of species worked together in the dangerous radiation of the galactic core, building structures that combined technologies in ways that should have been impossible. Human engineering provided the backbone for systems that used Valithi energy manipulation, Krulex quantum mechanics, and harvester biotechnology. There were failures, setbacks, and moments when the entire project seemed doomed. Some coalition members withdrew their support when the costs grew higher than expected. Others lost faith when early tests produced disappointing results. But Kyung never gave up, and his determination infected everyone around him. He had a human ability to find solutions when everyone else saw only problems. When Zentari crystals proved incompatible with Corex quantum fields, he found a way to make them work together. When Ophani time sight showed disaster impossible futures, he changed the plan to avoid those outcomes. Finally, the network was complete. Thousands of energy generators spread throughout the galactic core, all connected by quantum communication links that would allow them to activate simultaneously. The coalition forces withdrew to safe distances, and everyone held their breath.